Hi, I have the fourth and final part of the story, One Day by Sajni Patel. I'm going to read it. I'm going to start a couple sentences from into the third part and then just keep going. Okay, so here goes. That night, I video chatted with Neil for another hour in the dark, alone, but for the first time in a long time, not really alone at all. The next morning, my parents left early for the weekly grocery run. It was a whole event now. They carefully calculated a long list that had accumulated over the past 7 days, and then they did the drive, the masks and hand sanitizer and wipes, and then waiting in line outside the store, the social distancing protocol within the store, and of course the long checkout process, all the while hoping they wouldn't have to go to any more stores, not to mention wiping everything down once we unloaded the groceries inside. At home, Neil asked over the phone if I could come outside. For my shoe? Yes. I frowned. Does that mean you're willing to give up the one thing that makes us keep talking? I hope we keep talking afterwards, with or without a hostage shoe. Meet you in front of the building in 10 minutes? I just have to finish the sauce. You cook? Yep. I don't have much else to do. Been watching YouTube cooking videos, but now my mom complains that she doesn't have anything to do, he said. What are you making? Noodles with veggies. Just missing bread, though. Store's been out. Thought of trying to make my own bread, but it looks hard. Plus, the store is always out of flour anyway. Guess everyone was baking, he muttered. We hoarded the stuff early, before quarantine was official. Smart. I chewed on my lower lip and finally said, see you in 10. Awesome. I hurried to change. And then in the kitchen, I grabbed a Ziploc bag prepared with Clorox wipes and stuffed it into my back pocket. In the corner of my eye, I noticed a loaf of bread we'd made the other day and hadn't cut into. It was the prettiest loaf by far. The X on top was pure Baker Pro level, and the crust was crispy and golden brown. I carefully lifted it in foil and placed it in a bag when Lily came out of the bathroom. You going outside? She asked, her brown eyes wide and accusatory. Don't tell, I said, a finger to my lips. But Lily wasn't having it. She was one of those little formidable girls who was going to grow up into a formidable woman. She didn't have to say anything, just gave a look that said, you're not going without me or I'm telling. I sighed and dropped my head back. Fine, be quick. She ran to her room and then skipped back to the foyer with a face mask on and a loaded water gun in her hand. We slipped into flip-flops as I adjusted my own face mask, and we headed out through the long hallway and down the stairs. The sun hit my legs as soon as we reached the sidewalk. With no one around, I heaved out a breath, closed my eyes, and just enjoyed the sun and the space and the outdoors. A few moments later, Neil walked out of his apartment building and headed towards us, stopping several feet in front of me. His hair looked absolutely touchable in person. Too bad the mask hid his dimples. But he smiled because his eyes crinkled and, oh my gosh, who on the planet looks so adorable in a quarantine mask? You got my shoe? I asked. He tossed my sneaker a few times into the air before gingerly tossing it to me. I stepped aside and let it hit the ground. You missed, he said. No. With the bag looped around my wrist, I whipped out a Clorox wipe and sanitized the shoe, then left it on the sidewalk to air dry for the recommended 4 minutes, then cleaned my hands with sanitizer. Neil rolled his eyes, but then he pulled out a small bottle of hand sanitizer and cleaned his hands too. How is that not the cutest thing right now? A guy who took this whole thing as seriously as we did. He took a few steps, and Lily immediately jumped beside me and aimed her water gun at Neil, pumping it a few times. 6 feet apart, she demanded. He stopped, holding his hands up. Yes, ma'am. This is my little sister Lily, I said. She's cute, Lily frowned. There's nothing cute about social distancing. Neil's shoulders shook as if he were trying not to laugh. You're right, he said. This is very serious. Awesome job keeping the family safe. You're taller than I thought, I said. You're exactly what I thought, he replied. Thanks for returning my shoe. I mean, for doing the right thing, which you could have done days ago. He shook his head. But then you'd never have given me your number. Extortion. I glanced at my sneaker and noticed a new scribble. Neil had doodled a guitar with notes beside it in blue Sharpie and had signed his name on the bottom. Beneath the E and A of his name, he had added an upward curve so that the letters looked like eyes with a smile beneath, and yes, even dimples to make sure I didn't forget who Neil was. I found myself grinning hard. "You signed it?" "Hope you don't mind," he said, his brows furrowed, maybe worried. "It's amazing, charming, sweet. It's nice," I said. "Let's go play," Lily said in a high-pitched whine, cutting through our moment. She hadn't been allowed outside without the parents in a while, and she was probably frothing at the mouth to run wild. I groaned. "We have to get back inside before our parents get home from grocery shopping. Have to help wipe everything down." Neil nodded. "Yeah, I better get home too. Have to finish cooking." "Here, this is for you." I dangled the bag in front of him so he could grab it from the bottom. He took it cautiously. "What's this?" "Bread." He regarded me for a few seconds. "We make a lot of bread," I explained. "It's our family time thing. It's sourdough. Took a lot of tries to get it right, but my dad mastered how to do it." He looked at the bag in the most unexpected, perplexed, but appreciative way. "Are your parents going to be mad you gave away food?" "No, we still have bread left. Besides, you don't have any flour to make your own bread because people like us hoarded it. Now you can have bread with your pasta." He smiled big by the way his eyes squished up above his mask. I'd do anything to see those dimples. "I'd hug you if I could." My belly did flip-flops until Lily reminded us, 6 feet apart. "Right, which is why I won't. But maybe one day," he said, hopeful. I bit my lip. Yeah, one day. One day quarantine would be lifted. One day we'd be able to get within 6 feet and not need face masks, and I'd be able to see his dimples in person. One day we'd stand right beside each other, his skin brushing mine, sparks coming to life, our fingers twitching as we slowly touched pinkies. One day we'd hold hands and not worry about sending anyone to the hospital. One day we'd hug and I would feel his heartbeat with my cheek against his chest. One day he'd hug me and I'd feel safe. One day we would get to hang out, go to the movies, meet friends. One day he'd invite me over and play the guitar. One day I'd tell him that his music had soothed my anxiety and our balcony romance made me feel normal, special, human again. One day couldn't come soon enough, but it would come. I couldn't wait for our one day. And that's the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Bye, everyone.